we need to anchor our reforms on the quality of institutions.
You're welcome to the Economy and Politics Conversation. I'm Ottoabasi Abasiekong. This edition, we're looking at geopolitics and implications for the Nigerian economy in 2026. With me to have this conversation is Dr. Olusegun Omisakin. He's the Director of Research, Nigeria Economic Summit Group. It's great to have you in the conversation.
Nice to have you too.
And congratulations, you just released your 2026 macroeconomic outlook report. So let's first begin with the geopolitics that's happening currently in 2026. And with different alignment of blocs across the world, how does this sit for Nigeria?
If you look at the foreign policy signals from Nigeria, and I think that's what we've been experiencing for years back, it's that of alignment with major, almost all parties. In other words, we don't quickly take position, we don't quickly, side, we take a very balanced approach. And I think that is important because first, we are not or near being called world power. Secondly, we are developing countries. We need to collaborate, partner with so many countries. So I think beyond that, I don't see Nigeria taking a very strong position in terms of the current or any geopolitical crisis or tensions that may come after this in 2026. So I presume the government will continue that non-alignment policy approach we've been taking so far.
So non-alignment approach is what you anticipate that the government will be taking?
Yes.
While it tries to have a balanced approach engaging the various critical blocs
yes.
in global economic scene. Now, 2026 is a very significant year because it's a pre-election year, penultimate year to next year, which is the general election in Nigeria. From your report that's recently launched, what should be the key priorities from the fiscal space? Your report had talked about the stabilization phase, and now you're talking about consolidation. So what are those key priorities?
First thing is to understand where we are and what 2026 is likely going to turn out to be for us. First, we are not in a very acute crisis mode. We've recorded some significant gains from different reforms from June 2023 to now, which is more or less like 30 months of reforms and the rest. Having said that, I think what we need to focus our attention on now is the concern of how do we make sure we don't lose focus. It's so possible, as you could see from my presentation, that looking at other countries' experiences, Ghana, Brazil, and some of these countries, in 2015, they went through more or less the same thing. The urge to always want to stabilize, people want to help you, countries and international institutions want to help you is there, and the expectation from the citizen is there. But the moment you achieve a little bit of, some leverages there and there's this possibility to then lose focus. So I think the message of today, consolidation, is don't lose focus, don't lose guard, just focus on what you are doing. So, and what that entails is, number one, macroeconomic anchoring. That we have achieved some gains doesn't mean that is where we need to be. We see, for instance, growing below or more or less the average GDP, average population growth rate. That cannot do anything on the long run. That cannot create jobs that will lift 100 million people out of poverty. And when you talk about policy reforms, they are nothing except they make money to an average Nigerian. So that is an improvement, but does it make sense on the long run? It doesn't. Inflation, yes, we are coming down from 30-something. We projected that this year will likely end up with 16. Is that an improvement? Yes, but would that be our story? Should that be our story? No. Digit is still very expensive for us. We'll talk about external reserves that is getting better now. 45, this and that. Good gain. But if you break it down and you look at the capital importation, then you start to look at the ratio of FPI and the FDI, which is a lot of stories are there, which is not encouraging. But we need to stabilize first before you then take more position. So I think that's the message of today. Whether we recommend specific policies or whatever, where that is there, but we think we need to just get focused. We also need to look at the implication at the sectoral level. Most of what we've done so far since 2023 to now is to correct some imbalances and then stabilize a little bit. So beyond that ideology, we need to then hack ourselves. How do we bring down the gains from macro into the to make it to have more a sectoral meaning in terms of the contribution of sectors to that growth, in terms of the individual growth rate, in terms of sectoral deepening, in terms of value addition along so many sectors. We've always been identifying strategic sectors. One of them is manufacturing. On the average, manufacturing grew last year by around, was it 1 point something? Very not encouraging. The same thing with agric, 2 point something, not encouraging. We cannot have these two sectors growing in below 4-5%, and we want to achieve inclusive growth. We are not going to achieve that. So I think those are the conversations that we need to look into this year, towards consolidating goals, gains, and then making them meaningful for the people.
Yes. Let's come to something very important that's of some interest to you. Economic data. It's critical for research. It's critical for national development, of course, which are two areas NESG has pivoted. What is your take on the rebasing? Because I know that the National Bureau of Statistics and the Nigeria Economic Summit could have some level of partnerships. The rebasing, which has had impact on inflation. Now you've projected 16% for this year. The rebasing brought inflation to about 14.45. But now we've seen that there are going to be two methodologies brought out for December. So the most important thing is, how does this impact the households? If, like you said, we're still going to have double-digit inflation, while some economists were even saying that we'll have single-digit inflation.
Yeah, it's okay. And if you read today's the signal, the major signal from our program today, I think is on that inflation. That is the single indicator you can use to either look at how a country is doing well or badly, or how its people are faring. GDP good, foreign direct investment great, but inflation, and it's good to also look at it that is relative, right? It depends on where we're coming from and where we're. And if you are in 30% growth rate, we're talking of inflation this time around, the rate at which your prices change. If it's like 30% then, and now it's 14, that's good news. And that doesn't mean, this technically, you are economists too, technically, because the MBS will not go to the market and, sample all the goods. They have every country does that. Yeah, the same methodology and so many other things. But I think the most important message is that until we are able to bring down our inflation to single digits, I don't think we've done justice to any stabilization or consolidation efforts. I don't think so. I think until people go to market and goods are provided and they are able, and the impact of that basket of food in their income is not that, killing. Yes. So I agree with you that is important. And that also identifies the role of MBS. Yes, we've partnered with MBS because we understand there is no way you can monitor or manage an economy without understanding the role of the data managers. And yes, they've been doing the best they could do, to make sure that economic data is well understood, given some changes there. We've had rebasing exercise, and I think for some time now they are still, telling us how they did it, what they did. But generally, the idea, according to the MBS, is the change in the economy. Changes, innovation, so many sectors are coming in that we've not captured for long. So many sectors are even there now. So many consumptions that were not captured before, and one of the examples that was cited was that before people buy colored TV, all those things, but now nobody buy all those, stuff. So I also agree that yes, that when it comes to technical data modeling analysis, we're not going to have it in a perfect situation. But as an economist, what I'm interested in is, are we truly measuring the pulse of the economy? If we are, good. If we are not, then why not? And that's why I think different think tanks, organizations like yours can also come up to say, okay, we observe this, we
done
see
our
this,
interventions
and then
too.
yes, and then to see the reason, to clarify from their side, or to say, oh yes, we'll do something. But ultimately, I think we cannot talk about development narratives without the role of MBS, without the role of quality data, which I think is needed, really.
And like you rightly said, the role of PROSHA and others is to ensure that we highlight those issues and bring to book what is very important in giving credibility to economic data. So let's look at the scenarios. Last year you did scenarios, but this year you've looked at issues like pillars for the outlook: 5.5% GDP growth, 16% inflation. We also looked at the foreign reserves going to $50 billion. I know some economists have said we need to get the correct net reserves. That for us is very important. So what are those most suitable scenarios for stability and growth? What are those pillars and those dynamics that are important from the reports of the NESG?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to, we'll be recommending dynamics, what the government should do. And I don't see any significant difference from what we've been saying, especially in 2025. It still boils down to coordination. We've been talking about fiscal policy, monetary policy, and that's why you see them coming. We've been after them, and we've been cooperating together. And we could see some of the recommendations also being taken. We cannot come out of this current situation, whether you call it, by the way, stability, civilization level, consolidation, those are just nomenclatures. They don't really matter. What matters is we are in a situation where we need to get out of this place fast, and we need to get out strong, right? So major recommendations, and what I think we need to focus on is institutional deepening. We need to anchor our reforms on the quality of institutions. When you are in a crisis mode, you are likely going to come out with reforms. The president, when he came into power, announced immediately that subsidy is gone. That's the policy statement. But over time, the role of institution to anchor that ideology is needed, or else we'll find ourselves with some level of subsidies there and there. So institutional strengthening or deepening. We also advise on the collaboration between the monetary and the fiscal authorities. We also talked about the sectoral deepening. I think we are really interested in what is happening along sectors. And 2025, yes, we've identified a little bit of a shift from what we had during the crisis time. Now you have many sectors migrating towards what we refer to as leading sectors. In other words, they have high growth themselves, and they contribute in terms of contribution to growth, not just their share in GDP. As their contributions have improved significantly. One of them, we've always been celebrating services, financial sector, and the rest. But now it's time for us to be looking at the sectors that will lead us out of this, that will make us to get stability more. And stability in this case of consolidation refers to job creation, unemployment, reduction. And there is no other sector that can do that except manufacturing and agri, because these are the core sectors globally that are hammering on value creation. Yes, value creation. The manufacturing is still struggling. And I think, again, it's partly because of the weakness we have seen and recorded in the agri sector. If you don't have a modernized agri sector with clear value chain system, you are not going to have a developed, manufacturing, like people think is the other way around, because manufacturing will need so many products from the agri, to as input. Now they have one of the critical problems of manufacturing sector in Nigeria, according to what people have shared, is input challenges. When the issue of the crisis within the FS came in that time, that was the first point. So if we have a robust agri system, input problems, chemical, fertilizers, everything will be solved. So those are the things we've identified and we've advised, we've recommended, and the minister also talked about what the government is doing along those things.
What is your final word for 2026? What should all Nigerians anticipate? What should government be role of government and private sector?
Yeah, I think everybody should be involved. The last part of my presentation talks about what everybody should do. I think the era of thinking the economy is about the government and some of these so-called think tanks and people like you that will be speaking economic stuff every day. No, I think that's gone. I think the civil society, individuals should start, developing. They should start, understanding this idea of the economy. What is really happening? How many? Not just when the issue of tax, comes up. People, everybody now talks about tax. Suddenly, content creators, everybody is now agitating tax. But if we can put the same energy into saying what's our GDP, who are the sectors that are contributing to GDP, what's our debt, what's the foreign direct investment, what's the minister doing, that would be great. And that has always been our mission, to make sure that we simplify economics, and then make it something that people can relate with. And I think that's what you are doing.
Yes, that's what we're doing, and we're committed to advocacy, enlightenment, and ensuring that policies are dimensioned in a way that government is held to account and citizens are empowered with the information. And of course, we ensure that it's a win-win situation for the economy. Well, thank you very much. Very incisive reports. We would continue to look at it and engage NESG. We appreciate your role bridging that gap between public and private sector. And we hope that in the year 2026, we should see some impact, especially stabilization to consolidation phase and the reforms. Not forgetting that it's a pre-election year.
Yes,
Thank you once again, Dr. Olusegun Omisakin, Director of Research, Nigeria Economic Summit Group, for this interesting conversation on geopolitics and implications for Nigeria economy in 2026. Thank you once again for the time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
To our viewers, that was a conversation on geopolitics and implications for the Nigerian economy in 2026. If you want to get further insights on this conversation, log on to our website displayed on the screen or follow our social media platforms. Till we come your way again, I'm Ottoabasi Abasiekong. Thank you for being part of this conversation, and bye for now.